For years, big tech kept its distance from traditional media. After the mixed results of earlier experiments, most large technology companies publicly shifted their focus toward platforms, infrastructure, and software ecosystems. Media businesses were seen as low-margin, politically sensitive, and operationally complex. But quietly and steadily, that stance is changing. Across the US tech landscape, big tech companies are once again buying, funding, or deeply partnering with media companies, and this time the motivation is very different from the past. This new wave of media acquisitions is not about chasing advertising dollars or building flashy entertainment empires. It is about control, influence, data, and long-term strategic positioning. Media is no longer just content. It has become infrastructure for attention, trust, and narrative, and big tech understands that those assets are becoming increasingly scarce. One major reason big tech is re-entering the media space is the changing economics of digital advertising. For more than a decade, platforms relied on massive ad growth fueled by user data, tracking, and targeted delivery. That model is now under pressure. Privacy regulations, platform restrictions, and consumer backlash have made advertising less predictable and less profitable. As ad efficiency declines, controlling premium content and distribution channels becomes a way to stabilize engagement and pricing power. Owning media companies allows tech firms to secure reliable streams of attention that are not dependent on third-party publishers or algorithmic deals. Instead of competing for ad inventory across the open web, platforms can anchor user time around owned or exclusive content. This reduces volatility and gives companies more leverage when negotiating advertising, licensing.
The deeper AI gets, the more every startup depends on the giants who own the pipes, power, and platforms. And that's not just a cost issue, it's a control issue. Because when a few companies own the infrastructure, they don't just provide access, they set the rules. Think about it. If you're building on Microsoft's Azure, your pricing can change overnight. If your app competes with Google, it might get buried in search results. If you rely on Apple's ecosystem, one software update could make your product obsolete. That's the quiet dominance of infrastructure. You don't need to crush your competitors if they can't move without your permission. And for small tech firms, that's the new reality. They might have better ideas, faster innovation, or tighter teams. But if they don't control the rails their technology runs on, they'll always be playing by someone else's rules. Now, big tech didn't get here by accident. They learned from history. Back in the 2000s, software was the key battleground. In the 2010s, it was mobile. But in the 2020s, the real fight is about who owns the compute layer. The companies that control compute, chips, cloud capacity, and data pipelines control the pace and price of progress. That's why NVIDIA has become the most valuable semiconductor company in the world. That's why Microsoft's partnership with OpenAI wasn't just about innovation. It was about securing exclusive access to compute. And that's why Amazon is quietly building its own AI chips to reduce reliance on others. This is infrastructure as empire. So, where does that leave small tech? The truth is, it depends on the layer they play in. Startups that try to compete directly with infrastructure giants, building chips, training massive models, or operating large-scale clouds, are facing impossible odds. The capital requirements are too high, the talent too scarce, and the margins too thin. But the startups that build around infrastructure, the ones that find creative ways to plug into these systems, are thriving. Think of companies specializing in fine-tuning models for specific industries, or startups offering privacy layers, model compression, or AI safety monitoring, or those building apps that use AI to solve very specific problems: healthcare diagnostics, legal workflows, supply chain optimization. They're not trying to own the highways, they're building the vehicles. And in an era when big tech owns the roads, the smartest small tech firms are becoming expert drivers. There's another path too, one built on collaboration. Some of the fastest growing startups in the US aren't competing against big tech. They're partnering with them. They get access to infrastructure in exchange for innovation. They use the giants' power to scale their products faster than ever before. Yes, that comes with risk, dependency, data sharing, and the ever-present fear of being copied. But it also gives small firms something they've never had before: global reach, overnight. The trick is balance, using big tech's rails to accelerate without letting them dictate your destination. Still, there's a growing unease in Silicon Valley, even among the founders benefiting from this setup. Because when a handful of corporations control the infrastructure of innovation, creativity starts to look like tenancy. You can build, but you can't own. You can innovate, but only within the limits someone else defines. That's the real risk behind the current AI boom. Not that startups will fail, but that they'll succeed only in the spaces big tech allows them to. And if that dynamic hardens, the next generation of innovation might not come from garages or dorm rooms anymore. It'll come from within the walls of trillion-dollar companies. So, who wins when infrastructure rules? In the short term, big tech. They've built the foundations everyone else stands on, and they're earning the rent that comes with it. But in the long run, maybe the winners will be the small firms that learn how to adapt. The ones that don't waste time fighting for control, but instead master the art of building smarter, leaner, and more human.